Five Nights at Fuckboys, a vulgar parody of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise made in RPG Maker. A solid series, with 3 entries and a collection of remakes. The games themselves were developed back in late 2014 by Harshmello on Speep's Highway, and from there, they somehow managed to become incredibly popular, the remakes finally being finished in late March of this year. I am a member of the community, and an old one at that. I've been through a lot, and there I have learned more than any sane individual should be allowed to know. Secrets, trivia, oddities, all compiled into a single image. An iceberg deeper than it has any right to be. I want to explain what this iceberg holds, and share all the weird and wild knowledge there is to know. This iceberg mostly goes over the Final Mix games, aka the originals, though there are some bits of the remakes here and there. So, without thought, we will dive into this madness and hope we don't die along the way. Let's begin! The Dragon Dildo. The Dragon Dildo is a weapon obtainable throughout the series via several methods in each game it appears in. In the first FNaFB game, you must punch the kitchen door 100 times. In FNaFB 2, you simply obtain it at the end of the game, though its power depends on how much bonus content you've done. In the main story of FNaFB 3, you don't find it at all. The weapon itself is incredibly powerful, rivaling most other weapons, but typically can only be equipped by Freddy. It also prevents the use of Lead Stinger under certain circumstances. The Refurbs. The Refurbs, in this instance, refers to a super boss from FNaFB 2 that can only be fought after completing a specific set of bonus content. They are notoriously difficult, even considered impossible to an extent. Unlike most enemies in the game, their AI is handcrafted via events, and thus they always move first. The achievement associated with them only further shows off the fact that they are never intended to be beatable, only obtained after surviving 20 turns against them rather than defeating them. The Interior Walls. The Interior Walls is a dungeon found on Night X of FNaFB 1. It is void of oxygen, meaning you'll slowly suffocate while traversing it outside of combat unless you frequently use an oxygen machine. It also has roulette tables that move around the environment in a pattern. If you touch the roulette table, you're sent back to the start without mercy, even if only a party member touches the roulette table. You progress via keys dropped by the playing card enemies. These enemies may also drop godly tier weapons, which are by far the strongest available weapons in the game. The dungeon ends with a non-canonical fight against Phantom BB. FNaFB 2 Golden Freddy Encounter. In FNaFB 2, certain random encounters may contain Golden Freddy, who will appear and either kill the enemies, the player, or both. It is possible to survive this encounter and escape him. Or is it? Save Import Scenario. The Save Import Scenario is a semi-hidden bonus game baked into FNaFB 2, unlocked by loading a complete save file from FNaFB 1 Night XXX in FNaFB 2. It features Freddy and co. traveling back in time where they are revealed to be the Refurbs mentioned previously. After defeating the FNaFB 2 gang, they all team up to take on BB. Vending Machine. It's possible to unlock a vending machine in FNaFB 1, 2, and Act 3 by interacting with a specific object around 100 times. This vending machine grants the player access to final shop tier items and stat boosts. In FNaFB 1 and Act 3, the object is a broken crunk bottle. In FNaFB 2, the object is a carousel. Kingly Weapons. The Kingly Weapons are a set of weapons in FNaFB 1 that are dropped by party hats randomly with a low chance. They're considered the ultimate weapons. FNaFB 2 also has a similar set of weapons known as the Real Weapons, dropped by streamers. Springtrap can also obtain an ultimate whip in FNaFB 3 through random drops. The Rap Gods. The Rap Gods refer to an event present in FNaFB 2 and 3 where the player can fight famous real-world rappers and gain a stat boost or special item from doing so. In order to do this, the player must obtain a cassette radar and locate tapes in rooms of the game map. Upon collecting the final tape, the Rap God fight begins. FNaFB 2 Debug Room. FNaFB 2 has a debug room, presumably used to make testing the game easier. It is accessed by encountering Shadow Freddy in the parts and service room, then surviving the encounter, which requires editing the game files. Afterwards, a poster will appear near the stage for the player to punch. Punching it 2,500 times grants access to the debug room, where the player can do things ranging from buying free items to renaming their character. The developers are even in this room. The Future Puppet. The Future Puppet was originally a scrapped boss from FNaFB 3, but was later added in an update for Act 0 of FNaFB 3. In this fight, the Future Puppet attacks itself in battle, displeased with the paradoxical nature of its existence. Unused dialogue can be found in FNaFB 3 that shows just how annoyed Springtrap would have been at the sight of a third puppet, as well as this comically unfinished attack sequence for the Future Puppet. Bonnie's head is armor. Simply put, most people don't realize the fact that Bonnie's head in FNaFB 1 is actually a shield you can equip, giving you some of the highest defense any equipment can in that game. Due to the nature of the head though, you'll need to give it up in order for Bonnie to join you. XXX Gamma Encounter Rate. In FNaFB 1 Night XXX, the encounter rate for Gamma Party hats is notoriously horrible. In any map they appear in, you will always be pulled into a random encounter upon taking a single step. This makes getting Foxy a living nightmare, composed of save scum. Withered Freddy. Withered Freddy is a boss and party member in FNaFB 2. The reason he's on here, while the other Withers are not, is due to how often players will and have missed him. His appearance happens upon defeating the final camera, which typically causes the player to not backtrack and find him, and instead progress the story. Due to this, most players are left wondering where Withered Freddy is. He is always there, you just couldn't find him. Another anomaly is that a lot of events are tied to his existence. Boss Rush requires him in order to appear. Combo skills. The combo skills are typically considered the ultimate skills for animatronics that learn them. The only exception is Springtrap, where typically they're not considered worth using at all. The combo skills in FNaFB 1 are learned via defeating the toy animatronics, while in FNaFB 2 they appear in the form of keystones that spawn in chests around the map as cameras are defeated. Springtrap learns his skills by level up. Infinite Copper Coils. In FNaFB 3, it's possible to obtain an infinite number of copper coils. Due to the way the chest containing the coils is programmed, it never actually gets set to an open state through simple interaction. This is best seen by exiting and re-entering the map, which causes the graphic to reset. Interacting with the chest even after opening it will simply replay the opening animation and grant another 2 copper coils. This can be repeated as many times as you want, though copper coils cannot be sold or really be considered valuable in such high quantity. FNAF posting. Simply put, FNAF posting is when someone posts FNAF on the FNAFB subreddit. This isn't allowed, but it happens all the time, typically in the form of a meme or source filmmaker animation. There was even once a person who literally just shared their favorite Minecraft skin, which had nothing to do with either FNAF or FNAFB. What a legend. Boss Rush. Boss Rush is the mode in FNaFB 2 that can be accessed after obtaining Withered Freddy. A crystal will be found in the parts and service room, which when given a valid password will initiate Boss Rush mode. In Boss Rush mode, the player must fight most bosses in a row while under a handicap. Beating Boss Rush mode rewards you with technically nothing, though it does count towards unlocking the refurbs. Donuts. Donuts are a bizarre item found in the FNaFB games. It doesn't typically appear in shops, and instead only appears in vending machines. It gives an ally 10 tech points on use, which is twice the amount a normal attack would give. Very strange item for sure. Skill Crystals. In FNaFB 2 Critical Mode, in the BB scenario, the player will encounter unusual crystals floating in place. These crystals serve the purpose of teaching skills to party members that can't level up. What these crystals actually are in-universe is unknown. Q and W scenarios. In all three FNaFB games, the player can hold the Q and or W keys when starting a new game to instead initiate an alternate game where they play as a different character. In FNaFB 1, Q grants the BB scenario and W grants the Vial scenario. In FNaFB 2, Q grants the BB scenario, and W grants nothing. In FNaFB 3, Q grants Act 0, and W grants Puppet scenario. Timer flip doesn't work. It's true. In FNaFB 2, Toy Bonnie's skill Timer Flip doesn't do anything. This isn't intentional, obviously, but instead an oversight. In FNaFB 1, Timer Flip does nothing on purpose. That is the joke. It literally does not do anything under any circumstances other than say, and I quote, "It didn't do shit." Metal Streamer. A rare encounter in FNaFB 2, the Metal Streamer is a very durable version of a normal streamer that takes a lot of firepower to even take damage. Luckily, it has low health, meaning just about any hit is a killing blow. Metal Streamers drop a lot of EXP and tokens, making them efficient grinding fodder. They also have a chance of straight up running away, so that's cool. They're a clear reference to the Metal Slimes from Dragon Quest. Shadow Freddy. Shadow Freddy is an Easter egg in FNaFB 2 unlocked by random chance when entering the parts and service room. If he appears, he'll crash your game when talked to. If you fix the crash by adding a missing file to the game, he'll instead go away after the interaction, and the debug room will be accessible. You still there? Still watching? Still listening? Good, because there's still more to go. That was only the first layer. The second layer is where things start to really pick up. Freddy shits himself to death. In FNaFB 1, it's possible to not find the kitchen key upon opening the chest, and just as Freddy warned prior to opening it,
"If there's no key in here, I'm going to shit."
He certainly does. So hard, in fact, that it kills him, giving you a game over. The actual odds of triggering this secret death are 1 in 30, though you can force it into happening by holding Q. Workout Button. The Workout Button is a missable late addition to Act 3. It's used to show the party's speed stat, something you can't view from the menu. It is located in the future FNaFB 1 location in Pirate Cove. Snoop Dogg. In FNaFB 2, having exactly 420 tokens when collecting the final tape will result in Snoop Dogg appearing in place of Tupac. There is almost no real difference between the two rappers in battle, besides a few skills. BB's Influence. A rare event can occur in FNaFB 1 whenever a battle begins. There is a 1 in 51 chance that the message, "BB's Influence rang over the battle. Skills were disabled," will appear, resulting in the party being unable to use skills for the next 3 to 5 turns. Bobo. Bobo is an Easter egg in FNaFB 3 in which a distorted balloon boy covers the screen randomly upon changing maps for the duration of the player's time spent in that room. Upon triggering the Easter egg, Bobo will bellow out a low-pitched "Hi," and an achievement will be given to the player. Critical Mode Medium Sodas. The developers were kind enough to provide 2 chests in FNaFB 2 that only spawn in critical mode containing a combined total of 2 medium sodas. How thoughtful! Phantom Skills. The Phantom Skills are skills given to Springtrap in FNaFB 3, which always cost tech points. Each skill is given to Springtrap by defeating a Phantom animatronic. The average player wouldn't know, but there are actually 2 sets of Phantom Skills. One given to the player if they're at or below the level shown in Atari Land before fighting the Phantom, and a weaker version given by being higher than the aforementioned level cap. The game checks for the level before the player fights the Phantom animatronic, meaning you won't lose out if you level up after winning. Overworld Pizza Pass and Caffeine Revival. A fact popularized by Markiplier's Let's Play of FNaFB 1, the player can actually heal party members using Chica's healing skills in the overworld, saving a lot of tokens in the process. Bunny Hop is incapable of stunning. Bonnie's skill, Bunny Hop, cannot stun, despite its description stating it can. There is no explanation for why this is, as even in the very first builds of the game, it still doesn't stun. Shadow Bonnie. Shadow Bonnie is a secret boss only accessed on critical mode of FNaFB 2. To encounter him, one must defeat all cameras as just Toy Freddy, then enter the women's bathroom. Shadow Bonnie will be there, waiting. With just Toy Freddy alone, Shadow Bonnie is borderline impossible to defeat. Attempting to bring any other toys into the fight will cause Shadow Bonnie to vanish. However, any other party member is fine, though there is no legal way to obtain another party member like this in critical mode. Broken toy animatronics. In FNaFB 2, the toy animatronics at the end of the game end up damaged in a very subtle, almost unnoticeable way. For example, Toy Freddy loses an ear, and Mangle gains a dent in her head. These details are so minor and meaningless that it's a surprise the effort to implement them was put into the game. Lucky items. The lucky items are pieces of equipment found throughout the series that increase token and item drops. The lucky pizza doubles token drops, and the lucky soda doubles item drop chances. In FNaFB 2 only, the lucky items are exclusive to higher difficulties. They're typically found after defeating a certain number of game-progressing bosses, though drop randomly in Act 3 from certain enemies. Toy Bonnie uses Bonnie's skills when fought. In FNaFB 1, Toy Bonnie, when fought, strangely uses Bonnie's skills instead of his own. It can be assumed this is because his skills are context-sensitive. This somewhat also applies to Toy Chica, though she only gets a modified version of Pizza Pass. High is incurable. High is a status effect in the FNaFB series that is, in all ways, just confusion. For some unknown reason, however, if inflicted, High cannot be cured. Instead, the timer must run out on the status effect for it to go away, making it extremely dangerous and annoying in higher difficulties, and one of the most impactful of the status effects one can be inflicted with. 9 Backup Bash. 9 Backup Bash is a skill present in FNaFB 2 that is essentially a version of Backup Bash with 85% accuracy and hits 9 times. It is almost impossible to survive it, and a few late game bosses get to have it. It has become a punchline for most jokes surrounding bad fan game balance. FNaFB 1 Debug Room. In FNaFB 1, much like 2, there is a debug room. It is accessed by inputting a code in the bathroom by holding Q after forcing Freddy in the women's bathroom, which causes a crack to spawn on the show stage. That needs to be punched, just as the poster, 2,500 times to reveal the debug room within. Paper BB. In FNaFB 2, there's a 1 in 50 chance a paper plate doll of Balloon Boy will appear in the office upon entering. If interacted with 200 times, it will give you 500 tokens, then vanish forever. Springtrap in FNaFB 1 location. In Act 3, it's possible to find a hidden room in one of the generator mazes in which Springtrap dwells. This is in very clear reference to the equivalent location in the FNaF series where good old Willie A got spring-locked and boarded up, and where the animatronics were programmed not to realize there was a room. Interacting with Springtrap can elicit a what, a yes, and a punch. If Springtrap chooses punch, Freddy will take 1 damage. The room also contains unplayable arcade machines, as Springtrap puts it.
It needs quarters.
Only one of the arcade machines won't elicit this response, and that's a machine labeled Five Nights at Fuckboys 4, which Freddy will outright refuse to play. The Hydra Dildo. The Hydra Dildo, like the Dragon Dildo, is a weapon one can obtain, specifically in FNaFB 3. Prior to Act 1, Springtrap has to have placed the blanket poster's poster back on the wall where he found it, or else there will be no poster for Golden Freddy to punch in Act 2. Punching the poster 100 times in Act 2 grants Golden Freddy the Hydra Dildo, a weapon that not only gives him 500 extra attack, but also lets him move twice. Golden Freddy poster after 10 cameras. In FNaFB 1, defeating 10 cameras causes the battle background in the west corner to permanently change to the Golden Freddy Easter egg from FNaF 1. This is also present in Act 3, however it is there by default. Godly Weapons. As mentioned a layer above, the Godly Weapons are rare drops from the playing card enemies of the interior walls. They grant the holder a major boost in all stats and provide an extra action, allowing the holder to move twice. Caillou. In FNaFB 3 Act 2, Golden Freddy is capable of going to Starbucks by taking the Cam 10 exit. Once there, ordering a latte grants the player a 1 in 30 chance, or a guaranteed chance of holding Q, for a Go Animate version of Caillou to appear and to talk about how horrible his life is. It seems karma holds no punches for spoiled brats in adulthood. Poison is comically overpowered in FNaFB 1. Poison in FNaFB 1 lasts indefinitely and deals 10% of the victim's max life points and damage per turn. Freddy has a 40% chance to inflict it when using Lead Stinger. I think it's clear what this is in reference to. With Layer 2 done, it's time to move on to Layer 3, where not only do things get more real, but things get a lot more surreal, a lot more hidden, and a lot less known. Only one supply closet encounter. In FNaFB 1, there is quite literally one possible random encounter in the supply closet. This encounter is against a single Gamma party hat. It can be implied this is for those playing a Knight XXX, or just anyone who needs to fight Gamma hats safely. Endless Lighter. In the very same supply closet, you'll find a chest containing a lighter. If you sell that lighter for 7 tokens, the chest will refill. This can be used to farm money infinitely. Upon gaining Foxy, the trick stops working. Hold for alternative battle music. In FNaFB 1, there are a lot of cases where bosses have alternative battle music triggered by simply holding down the Q key before the battle starts. There are also moments in the future FNaFB games where this can be done too. ShittyTitle.png. ShittyTitle.png is an unused graphic in the title screen folder of FNaFB 1. It's quite literally just the most beautiful piece of art ever composed. It features a variety of stretched out and crusty Freddys. I'd hang it on my wall, wouldn't you? Permasilence. Permasilence is a weird status effect in FNaFB 3. It is inflicted most notably by Vile during his fight in Act 3. Permasilence prevents the one with it from using skills until they die. Death is the only way to remove permasilence, thus making you question if it truly is perma. Skyla Dildo. The Skyla Dildo is a secret final dildo of the series obtained in Act 3 during the Vile chase scene. If the player chooses to instead head for Pirate Cove and does so before Vile can enter the show stage, they will be able to find a chest containing the legendary weapon. It dramatically bolsters all of Freddy's stats to a significant extent, only excluding defense, which is just barely increased by comparison. This can be tricky, however, requiring perfect timing, else Vile will appear in the show stage before you can even enter Pirate Cove, locking you out for good. The puppet is always watching. Ever find it a bit weird how when the puppet timer runs out, the puppet knows exactly where you are and arrives within seconds? One could easily assume, given the puppet's power, he is somehow always capable of watching you, and thus always knows where you are in the building. Showstage BB XX Oversight. In FNaFB 1, after reaching level 20 as Foxy, BB will appear on the show stage and be swiftly beheaded by Mangle if you interact with him. However, on Knight XX and XXX, because you cannot reach level 20, there is also a camera requirement to make up for it. The only issue is that on Knight XX specifically, if you defeat more than 5 cameras, BB won't show up. This is due to a basic operator error. The game checks for equals 5 instead of greater or equals 5, meaning if you defeat 6 cameras, you're locked out of the Mangle fight. The fucking room. This entry is merely referencing the hilariously named map where you fight Phantom BB in FNaFB 1. If you haven't, I really suggest looking at the switch and variable names in most mainline FNaFB games. It may get a laugh out of you. Debug Room 2. In FNaFB 2, there is a second debug room found within the first. It can only be accessed by entering a password into the sign in the first debug room. In this second room, you can get good, shatter Freddy's masculinity, break the toys, and buff BB, alongside adding unique characters to your party. Nerfed Omega Shop Troop XXX. In FNaFB 1, unlocking the Omega tier shop typically requires defeating 3 Omega hats. However, this changes to just 2 if you're playing on Night XXX, because apparently the devs know mercy. Defeating even 1 is nigh impossible, so only having to defeat 2 is godly. The Toilet BB Exploit. The Toilet BB exploit is where the player purposely doesn't buy the cupcakes from BB in the sewer section of FNaFB 2, and instead fights Splash Woman immediately. Doing this, the player is sent back to the women's bathroom, but is then flushed by Toy Chica again without hesitation. The player now has all their tokens back, allowing them to buy a ridiculous amount of medium pizzas and sodas from a heavily discounted BB shop in the sewer. Konami code in the bathroom. The debug room of FNaFB 1 is accessed via code, but what I didn't tell you is that it's actually the Konami code. The code itself is up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, start, but in game, the code is UU, DD, LR, LR, BAS. Supply closet floor, no space in editor. This one is simple. Just look at this image. There are literally no floor tiles not taken up by an event. Something about this is just kind of funny to me. Act 3, Bonnie-less. In older versions of Act 3, it was entirely possible to skip having Bonnie on your team and complete the story without him, though this was fixed in a later update. Top Hat Toss ignores defense. Though never stated in the description of the skill, Top Hat Toss ignores defense entirely. It doesn't at all use defense in its damage calculation, making unavoidable damage regardless of the target's defense. This is not true for the refurb version of this skill. Gigas BB has 100 HP. One may assume when fighting Gigas BB he simply has infinite HP, or an amount so high it becomes arbitrary. However, simply looking into the game files tells you that he only has 100 HP and simply resists death, meaning no matter how much damage is actually dealt, he cannot die. Fearless Flight does get weaker later on. Chica's Fearless Flight skill states that it gets weaker later on, and anyone who has used it in rapid succession would tell you this simply isn't true. However, that's not what the description means. The damage formula for Fearless Flight uses both the regular and magic stats. Magic attack and defense are never actually acknowledged in FNaFB, not even being viewable, due to the fact that the opponent's magic defense is considered in the formula, which increases as the game progresses, and Chica's magic attack is considered in the formula, which only the godly weapons can increase. Fearless Flight slowly begins to get worse as the game progresses. Vaporwave tile sets. FNaFB 2 and 3 have unused Vaporwave tile sets that never get used even once in either game. Each tile set is a modified version of a pre-existing default RPG Maker asset, and it can be implied the tile sets were used for the save import scenario at one point. How much can we fuck up FNAF? This was apparently the basis behind FNaFB. While I remember reading it myself and several people told me to put it on the iceberg, I can't find a source for where this was originally said, so take this with a grain of salt. Skip the first puppet. In FNaFB 2, you can skip the first puppet by interacting with it 7 times. Doing this causes Toy Freddy to snap and toss the puppet into a nearby present. The second puppet will still activate after this, however, and there is no way to wind it back up. There is hardly any benefit to doing this. Overworld Golden Freddy. After surviving an encounter with Golden Freddy in FNaFB 2, there will be a chance for him to appear on just about any given map the player enters in the pizzeria, and if the player doesn't react to his presence and run out of the room immediately, he'll charge and force the player into an unwinnable battle where he immediately kills them. Vending machine in the ceiling. The vending machine in FNaFB 2, when activated, seems to fall from the ceiling, implying it was there the entire time, and the ceiling was able to support its weight just fine. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Freddy absorbs the Yif. In the save import scenario, the player fights Golden Freddy, who immediately attempts to end the player with a fatal Yif. However, Michael's hap defense this. What's so interesting, and something no player would ever notice without digging into the game files, is that Freddy also gains 180 attack after this, which can be very easily interpreted as Freddy quite literally absorbing the if. The Also Puppet switch. In the FNaFB 1 puppet fight, the switch Also Puppet is turned on and off over and over again every other turn. The switch causes the overworld tint to apply to battles, meaning the lighting of the battle changes every other turn for some reason. The Nightmare Refurbs. I didn't put too many CC entries in this iceberg, but this was one of them. In the older versions of CC1 had a post-game where you could fight a few bonus bosses. One of the bonus bosses were the Nightmare Refurbs. This is interesting, considering the Nightmare animatronics were at no point mentioned before this, making their sudden appearance a bit jarring. It can be assumed this is why it wasn't kept in. BB stat debuffs don't work, and BB stat debuffs still don't work. In FNaFB 1, and as the entry suggests, 2, the BB scenario's debuff functions that make BB start out not at full power don't work. Instead of decreasing his attack and defense, the game decreases the chance he'll have his attack and defense debuffed when hit by an attack or defense debuffing skill. Because there are none in FNaFB 1 and 2, this functionally does nothing. Top Hat Crash Recoil. In FNaFB 2, Top Hat Crash has an unlisted recoil effect, damaging Toy Freddy upon use. First, Bunny Hop listed an effect it didn't have, and now Top Hat Crash doesn't list an effect it does have. Wild. Foxboy. Foxboy is a rare Easter egg in FNaFB 3 accessed in Act 1, 2, and 0. Certain maps have a 1 in 501 chance in Act 1 and 2, or 1 in 201 chance in Act 0 of containing Foxboy upon entry. When spoken to, Foxboy will say one of three things depending on where you found him. If found in Act 1, he'll say,
Ah, baby!
if found in Act 2, he'll say,
I'm still, baby!
and if found in Act 0, he'll say,
Yeah, I helped make the vile jokes, but nobody believes me, so I just stay quiet about it.
There is a further 1 in 6 chance upon speaking to him that his voice line will be what I can only assume to be vocoded to "no sleep until clear," though I'm not too sure. Confusion and high are interchangeable. As stated a while back, high is basically just confusion. However, it is quite literally the same status effect in game terms, as the skill Confusion Lens inflicts high. Phantom Refurbs. The Phantom Refurbs are a super boss found in Act 3 able to be fought after obtaining the Phantom Shard item. In the fight, the Knight XX animatronics are fought, now powered up after the explosion Cranky's death caused. They're incredibly strong, and require an immense amount of stat boosts and strategy to beat. Evil Pizza Pass's weird description. Literally just look at this image. The entire skill is generally just a really strange piece of the game. Withered Foxy Skip. To the average player, defeating Withered Foxy is a part of recruiting Mangle in FNaFB 2, but in reality, he can be skipped as easily as just finding a new voucher and taking it to the vending machine. The only reason why you'd ever have to fight him is if you want him to be recruitable. Or, you know, you don't like exploiting the game. Tokens are a real currency. As seen in FNaFB Act 2 and 3, tokens are a real currency. Golden Freddy uses them to buy things at Starbucks and Walmart, while Freddy uses them in place of real money to buy a record for Bonnie. This is most interesting when you consider a plot point is Freddy accidentally leaving his legal United States currency back in the 90s, implying not every business accepts tokens as valid payment, but some do. Springtrap Tutorial. In FNaFB 3, there's an unused common event that explains how Springtrap works. It explains his two actions, his combo skills, and the fact that guarding costs him SP. It is unknown why this goes unused, though it could be because it spoils the fact that Act 2 exists. Puppet in the Plumbing. In the sewer section of FNaFB 2, the puppet can still attack Toy Freddy if the timer runs out. Though, interestingly, the puppet doesn't come down the toilet. He emerges from within the toilet. This implies he was somehow already in there to begin with. Is there some shortcut we don't know about? The puppet always attacks first. In FNaFB 1, the puppet has a nigh unavoidable basic attack he uses before anyone else moves, used on the first turn. It always targets the first party member, usually Freddy, meaning it can be telegraphed. Who put the office camera there? No, really. Toy Freddy has a valid point. Why is there a camera in the office? Who put it there? Where did the security guard go? Yep, nope, it's confirmed, The office camera was the night guard, and now you know, Freddy fuckboy is coming. He's gonna kill you. It's over. You're dead. No running away. I'm sorry. This is just the way it is. It's over. Enemy basic attack not as affected by your defense. When hit with a basic enemy attack, you'll take more damage than the enemy would if you did the same. This is because the enemy basic attack slightly ignores defense for some reason. It's a weird fact, and one that really just doesn't look too fun. Well, the third layer's done. Now we go on to the fourth, where things really start to get weird. And really obscure. Are you ready? Toy animatronic battlebacks. In some of the original FNaFB 1 builds, the toy animatronics had their own special battlebacks that appear to be there in order to fix the way their battlers cut off. In reality though, they just looked kinda weird when the boss died, as it would create a large hole where the battler once was. LastDance.ogg. Last Dance is a song in all three FNaFB games. It is associated with finality and the game's climax, typically appearing before the final boss fight. There is no known source for where this audio came from, outside of the time Zane WD asked one of the creators and got a response that it was custom audio. The general mood of the audio, combined with its mysterious origins, makes it a funny little thing to think about. CC Red Herrings. Another CC entry, this time referring to the various joke images present in CC's files, specifically there to confuse people. There are a lot of them, and they're pretty funny. FNaFB 1 puppet was rich. In the first builds of FNaFB 1, the puppet dropped an insane amount of tokens. Man really had all the wealth, didn't he? Atari BB. Atari BB is a set of unused maps that were apparently used for a cut ending. More on that later. S-Attack and S-Defense. S-Attack and S-Defense are the magic stats. What's so weird is that they're actually given new names internally, despite never being shown or mentioned in game. The S in S-Attack and S in S-Defense may stand for special. The toys didn't always have their own skills in FNaFB 1. As the entry implies, the first builds of the game featured toy animatronics as bosses that simply copied the classic animatronic skills. This is still somewhat true, as Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica both use classic skills in their boss fights in FNaFB 1. Weird Cameras Troop. Yep. Fucking yep. The Skype chat. Before the official Discord server came the Skype chat. This is where many historic events took place, such as Zane WD being blessed with CC development. A few screenshots still exist of it, and I'm sure anyone still in it can look back at the old messages. I lost my login information. Swapped bathrooms. The women's and men's bathrooms swap places in FNaFB 2. In FNaF 2, they are in the opposite order. the refurbs have their own skill set. In FNaFB 2, the refurbs you fight actually have their own skills separate from the classic ones. These skills have modified formulas, presumably to make them more fair. Except, backup bash almost always hitting, that one's a little bit bullshit, don't you think? Stab someone in the groin, party implications, during Splashwoman fight. The stab skill Splashwoman has in FNaFB 2 uses the bizarre use message of grabbed a trident and used it to stab someone in the groin. While this isn't so bizarre at first glance, you have to remember, only Toy Freddy can fight her. You cannot bring anyone into the battle with you under game legal circumstances. Why would the skill have to specify that it hit someone when there's only one target it could hit? This was fixed in FNaFB 3, where her stab skill uses the message, stabbed deftly with her trident. Past Puppet music references. In FNaFB 3, the Past Puppet's music starts off as Mass Destruction, then becomes Wiping All Out at 50% health. This is in reference to the first and second puppets from FNaFB 2, which use Mass Destruction and Wiping All Out respectively and appear in that order. Good ending rumor. There was a rumor that in FNaFB 3 you could get a supposed good ending by not killing Phantom BB, and thus you wouldn't trigger the death scene. This allowed you to kill Springtrap. This was apparently just a bug and cannot be done in newer versions of the game. In reality, this is a hoax caused by a video claiming to show footage of a good ending, but it was just a bugged fan game. Didn't stop it from becoming a genuine rumor though. The Summon Script Death Loop. In FNaFB 3, any enemy with 2 or more actions can put the player in a death loop if it lands a blow that finishes off the last party member without using its second action. This causes it to gain infinite actions for some unknown reason. It makes it attack nothing infinitely. This is strangely caused by a script that allows for Golden Freddy to summon allies in Act 2. FNaFB The Movie. FNaFB The Movie is a video uploaded by one of the developers that features a complete shitpost of an animation in GoAnimate. It's art. Pure art. The Space Jam Takeover. The Space Jam Takeover was an event on the official subreddit back in the 2015-16 time period. The entire subreddit was reskinned to be Space Jam themed. It was horrifying. A true nightmare. There are a lot of other takeover events, but this one is the most memorable to me. The Aesthetic Controller. The Aesthetic Controller was an item originally revealed in a video on one of the dev's YouTube channels, but ultimately went unused in-game. It can still be used as intended if hacked into the game, though. It distorted the screen to a degree related to the number inputted upon using the item. FNAF World Halloween Edition. The troll game, FNAF World Halloween Edition, contains a FNaFB reference in the form of the enemies Party Hat A and Party Hat B. Simple as that. '80s Endoskeleton foreshadows Prime. After defeating the '80s Endoskeleton, it'll call out a word. Prime. This is in reference to the Act 3 boss Endoskeleton Prime, which was foreshadowing. From here, if you beat the game, you'll end up getting a unique password for Act 3 that does something unusual, to say the least. Comically large Vile Sprites. Look at him. Look at him. He is huge. Massive. The Chipper/Tyke controversy. When FNaFB 3 came out, dozens of people would continue to contact one of the developers to correct their mistake. Act 2 introduced Chipper for a few lines, but the character shown is actually Tyke, the son of Chipper. Email after email about this error led to the new lore that something happened in the games that made Tyke change his name to Chipper. Tower and Pizza LLC. This image explains it way better than I ever could. Just read it. Unused ending. More on that now. We come to the part of the iceberg where things get weird. The unused ending is what would have preceded the Atari BB maps, where a different ending takes place. One where it reveals Freddy is the cause of a spatial collapse. It is unfinished, even ending with a simple ending here. It is unknown why this ending goes unused. Chatsy. Before the Discord, before the Skype chat, there was a Chatsy room. It was a mess, but a funny mess. It was created after I used Chatsy for my fan game and invited one of the subreddit mods to talk. They then created a chat room for the subreddit, which quickly evolved into funny. There were even moments where outsiders joined, thinking it was an actual adult chat room for explicit content. I'll Face Myself, thematic purpose. A lot of fan games will use I'll Face Myself because it's a cool song without realizing why it's used in the first place. It plays during a fight against the toys in FNaFB 1. See the connection? You're fighting a variation of yourself. You're facing yourself. Freddy Fuckboy hasn't fucked at all. He's a goddamn virgin. 2 Snoop Dogg troops. Yeah, I don't get why. The Beach Could Be Yours.png. The Beach Could Be Yours.png is an image of a carousel used in FNaFB 2 that floats in the tileset folder for some unknown reason. Combine its funny name with its unused nature, and you have yourself a weird situation without an explanation, similar to the CC red herrings. Debug Room, modeled after Mother 3 debug rooms. Compare them side to side, realize that FNaFB 2's final boss is a mother reference to begin with, and finally understand the universe. Well, here we go. The last layer. This is when the knowledge gets so obscure, I'm not even sure how I figured all this stuff out. Hedgehog's Dilemma. Hedgehog's Dilemma is a metaphor that essentially goes like this. 2 hedgehogs seek each other's warmth in the cold of winter, but cannot grow close as their spines hurt each other. It's a metaphor for human intimacy. What does this have to do with FNaFB? In X0, an item by the same name as the metaphor can be found with a 1 in 100 chance upon trying to use the vending machine. Using it causes a series of text boxes related to the Hedgehog's Dilemma to show up, inevitably ending with Toy Freddy stating that it was kinda hot. One can easily draw parallels between the metaphor and Toy Freddy himself. FNaFB 1 BB was initially spriteless. In the first build of the game, the hole in the wall that BB stands in front of was BB. Interacting with the hole triggered BB dialogue. He didn't have a sprite, it was instead just a hole in the wall. FNaFB takes place in a post-apocalypse. According to an often overlooked bit of lore found in the books Val reads in FNaFB 1's W scenario, using his innate mechanical knowledge, he constructed a time-traveling machine and used it to head to the distant future, long after a dystopian end times had wrought upon humanity. Not only does this imply the game is post-apocalyptic, but one of the devs outright stated it. BB's influence on the Mother Universe. Another entry best explained by an image. Character-specific dialogue quirks. Most characters have their own unique dialogue quirks that most people seemingly don't notice. For example, BB always talks in caps, and Mangle ends every sentence with ellipses. The typical quirk is just typing in all lowercase. The most obvious ones is Chica's quasi-inability to say anything but
Devour my hot bird ass Freddy.
and Foxy's inability to go long without saying fuck. FNaFB 1 Puppet was never expected to be beatable. As the entry implies, it simply wasn't, which is why it gave such insane rewards if you won. Once it was proven to be beatable, the rewards were lowered drastically. Screaming Piano. In the first build of FNaFB 1, there's a piano in the back room that screams. Speeps beat FNaFB 1 solo before it launched. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yes. Tech was called ? In one of the early builds of the first game, tech points were simply called ? This can be easily seen in Wade's playthrough of the game. Only one copy of FNaFB was personalized, and I fixed it with brute force. Someone once joined the Discord with a strange issue. Though he tried and tried, he could never get his game to let him play as Freddy. I sent him a patch. I sent him another patch, and patches after patches, but it never did anything until the final patch, where I had the game brute force BB out of the party when he was added and replaced him with Freddy. It was a weird event. FNAF.7z. FNAF.7z was the original name of the file containing the game. At that time, Five Nights at Fuckboys really didn't have its identity down yet. The beta build. Found. The beta build was the very first build of Five Nights at Fuckboys available from the developer's Tumblr account. For the longest time, it was lost, unable to be found, and on the same level as most fake internet legends of cursed video games. Until the day, the developer uploaded every single non-public version of the game series she could find, and dumped links into the general chat of the Discord server. This is how we have all the information we do about the game. The first build of the game was found, so please, do research it. You can now. It's finally over. I thought I was going to die recording all this. It took so long. So long. Oh my god. I cannot believe I actually managed to get all this done. First I had to make the image, then I had to write the script, then I had to record. I didn't have all day to record. I had to record this over several days, so you might notice a little bit of mic quality incontinuity. But it's done. It's finally done. And all I have to do is video edit. Oh. I'm sure I'll hate that just as much, if not more. I need to take a shit really badly.